The fall. We believe that all men are created equal.
To the magnificent mosaic that is America.
From radio beacon to radio beacon.
I have a dream.
Change has come to America.
Believe it.
Knock, knock. Who's there?
It's a figment of your imagination.
Randi Rhodes Show.
Turn up your mind.
Are you willing to go to war with the Bronx?
You'll find out. You'll find out. I mean, obviously, you know, we're not going to be talking too much about it. You're going to find out. They made a very big mistake.
Yep, Iran made a very big mistake. They will pay. But tonight, the president is clearly giving the mullahs an opening to pick up the phone and come clean and end their hostile behavior. I like that patience. What about all the liberals that said Donald Trump is rogue and we can't trust him? Okay, he's being very patient. Now, after a meeting at the White House, congressional Republicans, they released this statement. Quote, Iran directly attacked a United States asset over international waters. This provocation comes a week after they attacked and destroyed 2 commercial tankers in international waters. There must be a measured response to these actions. How do we define measured? President Trump does not want war. He said so clearly during the campaign. He's not interested in another, years and years long international entanglement. I don't expect one. But in coming days, we will know if the mullahs are smart enough to take the opportunity, which is a small window. It may not even exist within 5 minutes. Because if they don't, the president will have no choice. He will bomb the hell out of them.
Isn't that a fun channel, everybody? Isn't that fun? Bomb the hell out of them. Just bomb the hell out of them.
The U.S. official telling Barbara Starr that this attack had been ordered to go forward, but then was pulled back at the last second. Now, again, that's relatively easy to do, given that the U.S. has a substantial military presence already in the region, a number of strike aircraft, a number of ships that are capable of launching missile attacks against these proposed targets, which we're being told were Iranian radar sites and missile batteries, likely the same types of facilities that were used to target and shoot down that U.S. RQ-4 drone, which has kind of sparked this latest increase in tensions. Unclear exactly what caused the president to pull back the operation relatively late in the game. We'll be looking into that, but we've heard nothing officially from the Pentagon about any of this, not saying anything at all about what exactly happened last night officially, but we're looking into what possibly could have caused the president to cancel this operation so late in the game.
So he ordered a bombing strike on radar facilities and launch pads. Probably it was the exact launch pad where the missile that took down this drone was launched from. That's what I'm guessing, okay? And it was supposed to happen pre-dawn this morning, and Trump called it off. He called it off. Now, he tweeted... he tweeted, we were cocked and loaded. Anybody ever been cocked and loaded? If so, did you manage to shoot? Because the president did not manage to complete. Cocked and loaded. I always thought it was locked and loaded. I've heard cocked, loaded, and ready to roll. But I've never heard cocked and loaded. I guess he overheard it at the Pentagon and thought it sounded manly or something like that. But he tweeted that. He said, we were cocked and loaded to retaliate last night on 3 different sites. But he misspelled the word sites. This is your president. He's perfectly capable. He knows more than the generals know. He's really good about this. So, and then he said, 10 minutes before the strike, I stopped it. Causing so many casualties would not have been proportionate to shooting down an unmanned drone. I'm in no hurry. But, that is a different rationale, because yesterday he said that he could not believe he said it was a big mistake, but he thought it was a loose and stupid general. Remember? This was because the man does not want to shoot. I mean, this is like the only great thing about him. And it is a great thing that he's, that he understands that he doesn't know how to manage this is a really good thing. that he's not equipped to be a commander-in-chief, and the self-realization of that fact is a really good thing. But yesterday he had a different reason for not wanting to shoot.
This drone was in international waters. Clearly, we have it all documented. It's documented scientifically, not just words.
I love that.
And they made a very bad mistake.
How will you respond, Mr. President? How will you respond?
You'll find out.
Yeah, we will.
Are you willing to go to war with Iran?
You'll find out. You'll find out. I mean, obviously, you know, we're not going to be talking too much about it. You're going to find out. They made a very big mistake. I would imagine it was a general or somebody that made a mistake in shooting that drone down. Unfortunately, that drone was unarmed. There was no man in it, and it was over international waters, clearly over international waters, but we didn't have a man or woman in the drone. We had nobody in the drone.
Are you still open?
Would have made a big difference, let me tell you. Would have made a big, big difference. But I have a feeling, I may be wrong, and I may be right, but I'm right a lot.
You're a child.
I have a feeling that it was a mistake made by somebody that shouldn't have been doing what they did.
Who do you think did
I
that?
think they made a mistake. And I'm not just talking to the country made a mistake. I think that somebody under the command of that country made a big
Are you
mistake.
still open to talking to Iran's leadership?
Let's just see what happens. Let's see what happens. It's all going to work out.
So you're like there are members of your administration who want
Say it.
Are you saying you think it wasn't intentional to strike the drone?
I don't know. I find it hard to believe it was intentional, if you want to know the truth. I think that it could have been somebody who was loose and stupid.
It was somebody loose and stupid. I think this is how he describes, his paramours, loose and stupid, because you would have to be both of those to be with him. But it's a good thing. It's a very good thing. But apparently, Bolton, Pompeo, and Pence, and Sean Hannity, really, this is where he gets his advice, we're ready to bomb the hell out of Iran, okay? I mean, Sean went on and on and on last night about how, the era of Obama and Biden is over, right? The era of denuclearizing Iran, the era of actually saying to Iran, you could have all of the money that the entire world has taken from you and has set aside so that you under sanctions, you could have all your money back. We could give you back all your money. And it was their money, but of course the Fox News viewers have no idea. They think that somehow we paid Iran in cash and other currencies, he says. I mean, this was just so stupid. But the reason that Trump gave yesterday for not wanting to shoot was that he believed it was somebody loose and stupid. He didn't think that either the mullahs or the president, Rouhani, had anything to do with it. He thought it was a rogue general. He thought it was somebody loose and stupid. Well, now, of course, today he's saying the reason he didn't shoot is different reason. He says it's because it's not proportional. Because the drone was unmanned, and we would have caused about 150 casualties. It's just like that movie, The American President, I swear to God, where, they have to go and attack Libya. And there's a conversation, and, President Shepard, Andrew Shepard, he says, how many people are, what time of day? They said, early in the morning, before the day shift comes in. How many people? He said, very few, sir. It's the least amount of people on the ship. And he's like thinking about this poor janitor who's going to die in a few minutes because he gave the order, right? This is exactly what Trump is now peddling. He sat down with Chuck Todd today, and he said that he didn't want to kill 150 innocent Iranians who launched the missile against the drone.
All things Randi at RandiRhodes.com.
Go for launch.
Speaking truth to power, the Randi Rhodes Show.
I have a feeling that it was a mistake made by somebody that shouldn't have been doing what they did.
Who do you think did
I
that?
think they made a mistake. And I'm not just talking to the country made a mistake. I think that somebody under the command of that country made a big
Are you
mistake.
still open to talking to Iran's leadership?
Let's just see what happens. Let's see what happens. It's all going to work out.
So you're like there are members of your administration who want
Say it.
Are you saying you think it wasn't intentional to strike the drone?
I don't know. I find it hard to believe it was intentional, if you want to know the truth. I think that it could have been somebody who was loose and stupid.
Okay, here you go.
So Iran state television has aired images of what it claims is debris of this downed U.S. surveillance plane. CNN's Frederick Pleitkin is live for us in Tehran, with more. Fred.
Hey, Fred.
Hi, Allison. Yeah, getting some new information now from the Iranian military as well. As you said, we now have also video, not just still images of those alleged drone parts. And as you can see on that video, a lot of those parts are very small, and a lot of them seem to be the outer shell of that drone that, or allegedly of that drone that the Iranians shot down. Now, the Iranian general who's in charge of the Revolutionary Guard Aerospace Forces, he just came out and basically confirmed why those parts are so small. He said that the plane was flying at an extremely high, or the drone was flying at an extremely high altitude of about 50,000 feet when it was shot down and then obviously hit the water very hard. And he says that the parts that we're seeing there are indeed mostly from the outer shell of the body of that drone. And he says the reason why the Iranians were able to recover those is because those were floating on the surface in Iranian territorial waters. He said the water there is about 400 feet deep. That's why they weren't able to recover more of that drone. The Iranians also coming forward and now claiming, still obviously, that drone violated Iranian airspace, but also claiming now that the drone was warned several times by the Iranian military. They say that the last warning to that drone came about 10 minutes before it was shot down. So the Iranians obviously sticking by their story that they say that this unmanned aerial vehicle violated Iranian airspace.
Okay, so they did it on purpose, is what they're saying. And they're showing you. This washed up on our shore. It was in our airspace. Now, we don't know if that's true or not. But what we do know is true is that the general that he called loose and stupid came forward and said, no, we did this on purpose. We did this on purpose. Look, here's the remnants of your stinking stupid drone that cost you about $122 million. What are you going to do about it? What are you going to do? Well, you know, the GOP, they were all, excited. I mean, Lindsey Graham was excited. Oh, get ready for some pain inside of Iran. And, the Biden-Obama era is over.
I'd much prefer we devastate our enemies from Tampa, Florida. That generation of weaponry is something we need to advance as a country quickly and expeditiously. Thankfully, tonight, we are in a new era. The weak, feckless Biden-Obama foreign policy is long dead and gone. There will be no late-night shipments of $150 billion in cash and other currency in cargo planes headed for the mullahs in Tehran. There will be no bribes. There will be no European frolics. For John Kerry, there will be no United Nations.
Okay, you get the idea, right? I mean, they were licking their lips last night. They were just excited as all get out that we were going to finally bomb Iran. And Sean Hannity is telling his audience that you could actually fight Iran from Tampa. Mm-hmm. Yeah. You could fight Iran from Tampa is what you could do. It's just so sick. It's so twisted. You had Pete Hegseth on Fox. We got to strike. Let's strike them. Let's do it.
How do you do that without killing civilians, without starting a major war?
Well, that's what the Pentagon does. That's what Mike Pompeo and John Bolton are there to do. But if you say, the reason we have international waters and international airspace in the world today is the United States Navy and the United States Air Force. Right. If we allow our drones, manned or unmanned, to be shot down and we don't respond, that's going to create a world where those spaces are contested. You cannot allow this to happen. This has got to be, we got to strike back.
I 100% agree with you. You know the region, you know the area, you know the risks. But America's prestige is on the line, and people are enemies. We're looking to see how we react, if we react.
It's very sick and twisted. I mean, first of all, they're behaving as if you don't have to go to Congress to bomb Iran. They're behaving as if there is an authorization to use military force and a well-funded machine that Congress has voted for to go and attack Iran. I mean, none of that has happened, and it won't happen because there's no way that a House of Representatives that is, in our control, that the Democrats control, is ever going to pass another authorization to use military force against Iran. I mean, it's just not going to happen. But I will tell you that the president, after saying, I just don't believe they did it on purpose. It was somebody loose and stupid. Then Iran came forward and went on the TV and said, no. We did this on purpose. Here's your stupid drone. It washed up on our water, on our shores, because it was in our water, right? And you people keep punching us in the face and provoking us. And you're the ones who pulled out of an agreement that you negotiated with us and the rest of the world. You're the only ones that pulled out. So here's your stinking drone. And stop trying to provoke us. And stop with the sanctions, okay? We were in compliance with your dumb agreement. And your own CIA says so. And then you change presidents. And all of a sudden you got this guy that likes to tweet stuff and likes to sanction people and likes to starve people and likes to say this and that, but won't back it up. Get yourself back into the JCPOA or we're going to start shooting things. Seriously, dude. So Trump sat down with Chuck Todd. He went on NBC. See, now this is an interesting placement. He didn't go on Fox where they're saying, we must strike. We must hit them. We must hit them hard. Lindsey Graham, I hope that they're ready for pain. I hope that Iran understands that they're about to have pain inflicted upon them. That kind of thing. Then this morning.
So did you greenlight something, or had you said, if we do it, I'll do this? What was the order you gave?
Nothing is greenlighted until the very end because things change, right?
So you never gave a final order?
No. But we had something ready to go subject to my approval. And they came in, and they came in about a half an hour before. They said, sir, we're about ready to go. I said, I want a better
planes
definition.
In the air? Were planes in the air?
We're about ready to go.
Yeah?
No, but they would have been pretty soon. And things would have happened to a point where you wouldn't turn back or couldn't turn back. So they came and they said, sir, we're ready to go. We'd like a decision. I said, I want to know something before you go. How many people will be killed? In this case, Iranians. Mm-hmm. I said, how many people are going to be killed? Sir, I'd like to get back to you on that. Great people, these generals. They said, came back, said, sir.
Is he trashing them?
Approximately 150. And I thought about it for a second. And I said, you know what? They shot down an unmanned drone, plane, whatever you want to call it. And here we are sitting with 150 dead people that would have taken place probably within a half an hour after I said go ahead.
Yeah.
And I didn't like it. I didn't think it was proportionate.
Someday somebody's going to have to explain to me the value of a proportional response, right? That is the quote from the American president. It is very weird. So yesterday he thought it was somebody loose and stupid. It wasn't intentional. Today he said, well, the people that shot the missile shouldn't die. Okay.
Connect. To speak to Randi, call 561-270-3844. 561-270-3844.
So here's what Iran needs to get ready for. Severe pain inside their country. That their capabilities pale in comparison to ours. We're not going to let them disrupt navigation of the seas, attack our allies and U.S. interests without paying a price. So if they're itching for a fight, they're going to get one.
Yeah, no, they're not. They're not itching for a fight, actually, Lindsay, and you know it. We are in violation of an agreement that we are signatories to. We violated the agreement. And unless and until our leadership admits that they made a hideous, horrendous mistake by pulling out of the JCPOA, by pulling out of an 8-year-long negotiated agreement, which Iran was living by. I mean, I wouldn't want to live there. I don't want to be there, but they have absolutely, no ability to create a nuclear weapon because they've been abiding by that agreement. Our own CIA says so. Everybody at the International Atomic Energy Agency says so. UNSCOM, the inspectors say so. Everybody knows it. Everybody knows it. And Trump creates chaos all the time. All the time. He tweets out fire and fury to the North Koreans. And then when they don't, launch a nuclear weapon at Guam, he declares victory. He does this all the time. He's doing this with Iran with these unbelievable sanctions that they do not deserve. They did not earn sanctions to be placed upon them. They were abiding by the agreement. Everyone knows it. An idiot boy pulled us out of this agreement a year ago, and here is where we ended up. This is because he knows better. He knows better than John Kerry about foreign policy. He knows better than the generals. He trashed the generals when he was talking to Chuck Todd right there. So I asked the generals, like, how many people are going to die? I have to get back to you, sir. Oh, these generals, you know, they're so good. I mean, just trash them. Just literally trash them. He knows better than the general. He knows everything. He knows everything. He knows about wind power. He knows about birds dying. He knows everything. He knows more about satellites. He knows about Mars. He knows about every freaking thing, this man. And the truth is, he knows just enough to say a little. And what did they ever tell you? That a little bit of knowledge is a dangerous, dangerous thing. That is what Trump has. A little bit of knowledge. He takes like a little term that he thinks sounds official or a little term that he thinks sounds strong, and he repeats it as if he's got a full breadth and depth of knowledge about this region or about this situation or about healthcare or about infrastructure or about anything, and he doesn't know jack. That is just a fact, and it's dangerous. So here you have them screaming, the era of Obama and Biden. The era of what? Peace and coexistence? The era of what? No nuclearization in Iran is over? Good. Oh, great for you. You've accomplished nothing. And now, you know, like if you would have, you know, waited for Iran's economy to get good and then told the people of Iran that your leadership is threatening your livelihood, that your leadership is threatening, you know, to violate the agreement, and you had legitimate, you could talk the people into Iran, you know, into overthrowing their own freaking government if you played it right. But they play it wrong because he's an idiot. He's loose and stupid. And when he says that, he's talking about himself. There is no appetite in this country for another war. None whatsoever, Lindsay. It ain't gonna happen. And by the way, get authorization from freaking Congress. See, this is what our leaders said. They were all called yesterday to the Oval Office, the Situation Room, and they were given a confidential secret briefing about the situation over there. And Nancy Pelosi came out of the meeting and Chuck Schumer came out of the meeting. They said, everybody said the same thing, that the president would not share any of the options that were laid out for him, that he didn't share any options for a response that he is considering. Nobody knew what he was going to do. There was no strategy. I mean, and you have to answer this question before you ever start something. You have to answer, how does it end? And if you can't answer that, you don't start it. You break it, you fix it, you own it, right? That's the Pottery Barn rule. Remember that, Colin? I mean, it's just so sick. And they have no goal there. They can't articulate what the goal there is. They have no idea what they're doing. And yet they're attacking people like Chuck Schumer and Nancy Pelosi, who came out of this meeting and said, how we go forward from here has to be strategic and smart and in close alliance with our allies. We don't have any allies. We would go do this alone. You understand that? We have peeved every ally of ours, every single one. And you know who would win? It's just like when we attacked Iraq. I told you, if we attack Iraq, Iran wins. How did we come to that conclusion so quickly? It took how many years for the rest of America to catch up with this idea that we had? Because Iraq was a secular country under control by a secular Sunni dictator, Saddam Hussein. And the majority of the people in Iraq were Shia. And that's why they hated Saddam. That's why they hated him. Because you had the minority in control of the majority. And he was running a secular nation, and the Shia are like super freaking religious, right? So it's sort of like, here with the Christian conservatives and their pool boys, right? It's just hypocritical. But we knew Iran would be the winner of any war with Iraq, and they are. They're in Iraq, okay? They're there. And we're there. And they could attack us there. So much for Sean's theory that we could do all of it from Tampa. Unless you want to bring everybody home from Afghanistan and Iraq and get them out of Syria, which I'm all about. That'd be cool. Then we could talk about starting another freaking war in Iran. But you know who wins that one? Do you know? Yeah, that would be Russia and China. Because you see, they do business with Iran. And our allies don't like what we're doing in Iran either, and I doubt very much we would have anybody with us except for the United Arab Emirates, Saudi Arabia, and maybe the UK. And that would be it. Everyone else would sit out, and China and Russia in the end would win. That's just a fact. I mean, Putin yesterday was telling, I don't know if this had anything to do with his not pulling the trigger, but Putin was on Russian television last night for 4 hours. Oh yeah, this is where Trump gets it, where he goes off on Fox News for an hour and a half to the point where Sean Hannity's given the producer the cut him off signal, right? Yeah, Putin was on the TV last night for 4 hours saying if America attacks Iran, it'd be a catastrophe. It'd be really bad for them. I wouldn't do it if I were
you. The Randi Rhodes Show is live on RandiRhodes.com and the free Progressive Voices app for Android and iOS. Visit the App Store or ProgressiveVoices.com now.
If you look at the recent history of this country, I think we understand that the two worst foreign policy disasters were based on lies that came from the White House. You remember the so-called Gulf of Tonkin incident that led us to increase military involvement in Vietnam. And man, I could speak, that was my generation. 59,000 brave young men never came home from that war, and tens of thousands of more died, committed suicide, got into drugs when they came home. That was based on a lie.
Yes, it was.
And then you look recently at the war in Iraq, which I vigorously opposed because I did not believe Cheney, and I did not believe John Bolton, and I did not believe the Bush administration. Again, based on a lie that Saddam Hussein in Iraq had weapons of mass destruction. Let me just say this. I will do everything that I personally can as a United States Senator to stop the United States attacking Iran. If we go into a war with Iran, this will be an asymmetrical war which will go on and on and on. There will be never-ending wars in the Middle East. It'll make the war in Iraq look like a cakewalk. So we have got to do everything we can to bring the antagonist, Saudi Arabia, which is a brutal dictatorship, together with Iran.
Exactly.
Bring them together. Use the power of the United States to work out a diplomatic solution, not a military solution.
Well, Bernie's right in principle. The problem is, the big beef is between the Saudis, who are Sunni, and the Iranians, who are Shia. Okay? It is this age-old thing. This is older than, the sand. It's just one of those deals. It's been going on since the 600s. And the credibility of the United States is less than zero with this president. Truly less than zero. We sign agreements. This president takes us out of them. We signed the Paris Accords on climate change. He takes us out of it. We signed the JCPOA. He takes us out of it. Every single thing that we agree to, we signed NAFTA. He takes us out of it. I mean, this man is dangerous because he doesn't understand the ramifications of the decisions that he makes. He just knows Obama did it, so he doesn't like it, and the hell with it. And that's just freaky. But I got to tell you, we would fight this alone, and what do you want to have happen in Iran? You want a regime collapse there? Really? What would that look like? Instability in Iran. What would that look like? Or a government being stood up there that's even more anti-American because we're the ones that, bombed them. What do you think? They would be more pro-American if we took this on? It's so stupid. It makes no sense. It makes no sense at all. And it was us that walked away from the agreement, with an agreement with which the Iranians were in compliance. It makes no sense. We have absolutely no credibility in the world with this man. So how are we going to bring the Saudis and the Iranians to the table, which is really where the beef is? That is really, really where the trouble is. Now, I could play you more Sean Hannity. I'll torture you. I will. I'll play you more him. But he's telling his audience, America is finally energy independent and we don't need we don't buy Iranian oil. That's number one. Number two, there is only one single oil market. One single oil market. Oil trades in a single market. And regardless of the fact that the United States has increased production, any interruption of supply in the Persian Gulf drives up your prices at the pump. This man knows that. You really think he wants to run for president with $4 a gallon gas? I don't. And of course, the very first thing Iran would do was it'll destroy critical infrastructure in the Gulf so that it's just this is so, and he keeps punching them. He has to freaking stop. Now, the logical thing would be for him to say, all right, we tried it without the JCPOA. You were in compliance. We were wrong. That will never happen because he's a moron and he always thinks he's right. So somebody, and it ain't going to be these people around him. It's not going to be Bolton or Pompeo or this new, Army chief of staff he was a Raytheon lobbyist for, and Saudi is buying Raytheon products. That's what the Senate tried to stop the sale of. Those particular products, the $8.1 billion deal was full of Raytheon's equipment to Saudi, right? You really think that they're going to stop that? I mean, the Senate, bipartisan, voted not to sell that stuff to the Saudis, but the president vetoed it, and they can't muster 67 votes. So the Saudis are having their way with this president, and that's what this Iranian conflict is all about. He doesn't have the wherewithal, the sense, or the acumen to understand that for American interests, the JCPOA was a very good achievement. It was a decent deal. If all you care about is American interests, then the JCPOA was your thing. But he doesn't. He cares about being liked by dictators who freaking went with a bone saw and dismembered a Washington Post columnist. The UN found that the Saudi kingdom, the prince and his king father, totally ordered it. And Trump is still going to sell them weapons. We don't have a Secretary of Defense right now. We don't have, Pompeo, Secretary of State. You really think Pompeo's going to put the Saudis in a room with the Iranians and broker something so that they could freaking figure out whatever they need to figure out between them? We have always had military and diplomatic support for every major war that we conducted since the end of the Korean War in 1953. Even the invasion of Iraq, which was unpopular, they were able to cobble together a small coalition of the willing. In this arena, we'd be fighting with Saudi. We would have Saudi, the UAE, Israel, who can't form a government, and maybe a couple of, people from the UK. And the winner, because the United States would end up isolated, and because our word would mean nothing, it does now anyway, we would take full responsibility for every single horrible thing that happened around the Middle East. And our unilateralism, our going it alone, would totally embolden Russia and China. Now, Russia and China, they're all about Iran. They love Iran. Russia supports Bashar al-Assad in Syria. Don't forget, whose side everybody is on, and they ain't on our side, that's for sure. So we end up fighting Iran, Russia, and China, or China sits it out. Russia, does what they do with gas, and they start poisoning people, whatever, right? And we're all alone in the world. I mean, the propaganda advantage that Russia and China would have, oh my God. It's unproductive, it's counterproductive, it's unnecessary, and it's fraught with so much risk. And so you had Nancy and Chuck trying to, tell people who care about this country what this would do to this country's standing, and Fox News mocked them.
Meanwhile, Democrats didn't miss an opportunity to make this political. Watch.
Not political, it's national
When you don't
security.
have a Jim Mattis there at the Department of Defense, for example, who's running this place? Is it Bolton?
So here we are in precisely the place that John Bolton wanted us to be in, where we're in a box where no matter what we do, there is a high risk of escalation in military conflict.
We're worried that he and the administration may bumble into a war.
Unbelievable. You would think that a united front would be in our national interest.
What is in our national interest is not starting a war with Iran. That is what is in our national interest. A united front with whom? With the president who had an itchy trigger finger and then decided that he didn't feel like shooting because what? Putin told him not to? A united front with whom? With John Bolton, the war hawk? A united front with who? The administration isn't united. These people are twisted, they are sick, and they don't care about America. They care about ratings. They care about viewers. They care about the base. And I got news for you, Fox. This man takes us to war. Bye-bye, base. Bye-bye. His 37, 42% on a really good day goes down to maybe what? 19, 20%? No. Go ahead and mock the Democrats. Go ahead. But we absolutely understand and have understood for a really, really long time that we didn't achieve victory in Korea. We didn't achieve victory in Vietnam. Neither did we achieve victory in Iraq or Afghanistan. And the costs of these wars in human lives and dollars alone was staggering. But the legacies of the presidents that did these things, Truman, Johnson, Bush, even Barack Obama, have been tainted with this warmongering and this posture of the U.S.
Mary had a little lamb.
The fault. We believe that all men are created equal.
To the magnificent mosaic that is America.
From radio beacon to radio beacon.
I have a dream.
Change has come to America.
Believe it.
Knock, knock. Who's there?
It's a figment of your imagination.
Randi Rhodes Show.
Turn up your mind.
The zero tolerance policy, was it a mistake?
It's not a mistake. We want to have strong borders. It's not a mistake.
Zero
but
tolerance
let me just
is
explain
the separation
something.
of children from parents.
No, let me explain.
Thousands and thousands of children separated.
When I became president, President Obama had a separation policy. I didn't have it.
No.
He had it.
No.
I brought the families together.
What?
I'm the one that put them together. Now, I said something when I did that. Watch. Many more people will come up, and that's what happened. But President Obama is the one that built those prison cells.
I understand. 2,800 children were reunited with their parents in the last year. We don't even know. The government doesn't even know how many children are still not with their parents. They don't know, which I find incredible.
Ready?
My question
Are you ready? Under the Obama plan...
Sir, we're talking about your plan.
No, we're not, because I'm the one that put people together. They separated. I put them together.
You did not. 2,800 children were reunited with their parents in this last year after the zero tolerance policy.
Because I put them together.
Thousands of them.
That's because I put them together. Under Obama, you had separation.
Under a court order, I mean, right?
No, I put them together. I'm the one that changed the plan. I inherited separation, and I changed the plan, and I brought people together. Now, when I did that, I said, watch what happens. More people are going to come up. Because when you put the parents together with the children, when you don't separate, and that's exactly what happened. But I hated to have the separation policy. And the prisons that you saw, they called them prisons.
Was zero tolerance a mistake?
What zero tolerance means to me is we're going to be tough on the border.
That includes separating parents from children, if that's what it takes?
No, I put them together. Okay. Just remember that. I put them together.
Holy crap, man. Holy crap. I mean, really, he lives in his head. He lives in an alternative universe. There was, oh my God, I don't even know where to start. Okay, there has never been a law that mandates family separation, let alone a law enacted by President Obama. That's just false. There is no truth to that. The reason why this past year alone, 2,800 kids had to be reunited with their parents, and we don't know how many are still out there without their parents. We don't even know. They had no plan when they took the children from the parents to put the children back with the parents. Nobody knew. They didn't even bother, putting a little bracelet on the kid or writing a phone. Nothing. This separation of children from their families is the policy called zero tolerance enacted by Jeff Sessions and Donald Trump by court order. It ended a year ago in June. And we still can't find many of the children. And the ones that we have, we don't know where their parents are. President Bush and President Obama never had a policy that created widespread family separation. The only time that we saw widespread family separation was after the zero tolerance policy that Jeff Sessions announced on the beach, I think it was in San Diego, and said, you will be arrested and we will separate you. And that is exactly what happened. There was a program in 2005 that the Bush administration had that referred for prosecution immigrants who illegally cross the border, which is stupid because it's a civil crime. But even that policy made an exception for parents with children. Now, Obama, he deported like 405,000 people, but they were families detained together. And lawsuits ensued because they didn't want the children in the cells with the parents, the Flores settlement. Obama never separated families. I mean, if you came with an uncle or an aunt and they couldn't, prove that that was your mother or father, then they tried to find somebody in the country who was, a close relative and sent the children to that close relative who lived in the United States. But 3,000 children were forcibly separated from their adult family members who were detained under a new policy that Trump characterized as a deterrent. It was called zero tolerance. And he sat there last night and he lied. This was Telemundo. Okay, this is a Spanish language channel. And that was Jose Diaz-Balart, whose brother, Lincoln Diaz-Balart, was a congressman. Remember that? From Miami. But he sat there and he freaking lied. He said, I didn't do it. Obama did it. I brought them together. I'm the one that brought them together.
The zero tolerance policy, was it a mistake?
It's not a mistake. We want to have strong borders. It's not a mistake.
Zero
but
tolerance
let me just explain
separation
something.
Of children from parents.
No, let me explain.
Thousands and thousands of children separated.
When I became president, President Obama had a separation policy. I didn't have it. He had it.
No.
I brought the families together.
No.
I'm the one that put them together. Now, I said something when I did that. Watch. Many more people will come up, and that's what happened. But President Obama is the one that built those prison cells.
I understand. 2,800 children were reunited with their parents in the last year. We don't even know. The government doesn't even know how many children are still not with their parents. They don't know, which I find incredible.
Ready?
My question
Are you ready? Under the Obama plan...
Sir, we're talking about your plan.
No, we're not, because I'm the one that put people together.
Okay.
They separated. I put them together.
Okay, I can't take it anymore. I mean, the lying is just,
He's a jackass.
Thank you, Obama. I mean, honestly, I cannot, for the life of me, understand how this country can maintain any credibility on the world stage with that man as our mouthpiece. I mean, you just did a whole hour about how we would fight a war alone because nobody trusts him at all in the world. Okay, but now you have evidence that something is about to happen this weekend that is just frightening, and I need for everybody to know this. This weekend, and he's tweeted it. So He has directed idiot Trump. It has directed U.S. Immigration and ICE to begin mass deportations, mass roundups of migrant families in the interior of the United States. It's called the Family Op. I'm serious. This is what they're calling it at ICE and the Department of Homeland Security. It's called the Family Op, and it's supposed to happen in 10 cities pre-dawn Sunday, this weekend. Houston, Chicago, Miami, Los Angeles, and some other major immigration destinations, said officials who spoke on condition of anonymity to the Washington Post to describe the law enforcement operation. Now, ICE had recommended a smaller deportation of about 150 families, but the president wants massive deportations. This is what he said at that ridiculous rally to the base in Orlando when he decided he needed a rally to soothe his, hurt feelings. But he said, you wait, you watch, wait till you see what we're going to do. This is what he's going to do, okay? This is what he's going to do. ICE is preparing their agents and equipment for this operation. It will begin starting Sunday morning. Now, there are some things that people need to know when they face these people.
Speaking truth to power, the Randi Rhodes Show.
It's hard to understate just how large the Homestead facility is. It's at this point it has double the number of kids of even the closest shelter to it and has the capacity for a triple that amount. And we're talking about acres upon acres of facility, separated even by an entire road that's fenced off with this massive green fence that you can't see in or out of. And on one side is more than 1,000 children ages 13 to 16. And then on another side is hundreds of children who are age 17. And they don't get to interact with each other. Even if they're siblings, they only get a little bit of interaction. It has to be like by appointment. And the children go in single file rows. They have a very strict schedule starting early in the morning through the evening. And they're kind of just kept in a very orderly process. They're not allowed to touch each other or really get a lot of interpersonal interaction at all.
And some of these testimonies are just heartbreaking. The stories, like you said, of not being able to talk to your sibling maybe more than once a week, or not speak to your parents on the phone very often, and you hear about children crying at night. Where did these testimonies come from? They came from the lawyers of the children?
So the entire nation's law for unaccompanied children, how we have to shelter them in government custody, is based on an agreement called the Flores Settlement. And this is a landmark Supreme Court case that set really generations worth of rules for just how we take care of unaccompanied migrant children in our custody. And there's this team of lawyers, hundreds of them, who go and check out the various shelters around the country and just make sure that they're complying with the law. And one of the ways they do that is by interviewing children. And we never really get to hear from the children at Homestead. So in this case, they filed, it was 76 testimonials from children describing their lives inside Homestead.
One thing that I think is very interesting and I think sort of important to point out is you said this is the largest shelter for unaccompanied migrant children, but that doesn't mean they didn't show up at the border with a family member. It just means they didn't show up with a mother or father. They could have been with an uncle or an aunt, and in that case, they were separated, correct? Right.
Family separation, as we know it, refers specifically to parents. So if a kid is with another relative, an aunt, a sibling, depending on the sibling's age, they are then classified as an unaccompanied child, and the adult is put in one direction and the kid is put in another direction in a different system.
It's a sick administration. This is just twisted. And that's the Homestead facility here in Florida that I told you about, where they had all these kids in there, and our kids here in Florida decided, 3,000 of them decided to write letters to the kids that are being warehoused in an old Air Force base called Homestead, which, by the way, is a private facility and it's not licensed. It's not licensed by anybody, and that's why no one can get in, and that's why nobody, the Congress members can't. It's private. It's completely private, and it's not even licensed for taking care of children. And so remember that story I told you where 3,000 of our kids wrote 3,000 letters to the children of Homestead saying, you know, there's somebody here who cares about you. We know you're there. Your life matters. You know, we're thinking of you. And they refused. The authoritarians at Homestead refused to deliver those thoughtful letters to those kids so those kids would know that they weren't alone. And then there was that incident with the soccer ball where the kids inside Homestead kicked a soccer ball over the fence. And the kids outside Homestead picked up the soccer ball because they were there to try and see the other children so that they could tell the kids, you know, we're your age and we're teenagers too, or we're 11-year-olds too. And, you know, we care about you. You're not alone. And so they wrote on the soccer ball, you're not alone. We're here for you. And they refused to give it to the kids inside Homestead so that they would have a small glimmer of somebody who cared about them. I mean, it's just a sick, twisted thing. And now they're looking at some of the other border detention sites. Okay, Florida is not a border. It's not a border state, but they're looking at some of the ones in El Paso. Now there are these detention centers, internment camps. Now they've been beating up AOC all week because she used a word they don't like. She said concentration camp. Oh, well, you know, let's argue about the word and not what we're doing. Let's distract that way. You know what? These kids are being traumatized in these camps. This is a camp in scrubland outside of El Paso, which is West Texas, which is in the middle of the freaking desert. And this particular one has 2-year-olds and 3-year-olds and 4-year-olds separated from their parents in it. And the lawyers finally got into this El Paso, it's outside of El Paso, into this makeshift, internment camp, right? And the lawyers were able to interview 60 of these children. And they said that what's going on in there is traumatic and dangerous. There are 250 infants. Oh, yeah. Children and teens that have been locked up for 27 days at least without adequate food, without water, without sanitation. And the attorneys spoke to the Associated Press. And they said 3 girls aged 10 to 16 or 10 to 15 said that they needed to take turns keeping watch over a sick 2-year-old baby boy because no one else would look after this sick infant. The lawyers were able to see this 2-year-old baby boy, and they noticed he wasn't wearing a diaper, and he was laying in a soiled onesie. He had wet his onesie, and he was just laying there. His shirt was smeared with mucus. They said at least 15 of the kids had the flu. Some of the kids were in medical quarantine. They said they're being fed uncooked frozen food or rice, and they've gone weeks without bathing or a clean change of clothes. Now, this facility is in the desert scrubland about 25 miles southeast of El Paso in a town called Clint. The lawyer, her name is Holly Cooper, she represents detained youth. She said, in my 22 years of doing visits with children in detention, I have never heard of this level of inhumanity. Well, this weekend, they're going to do more of this. This weekend, ICE is going to start doing these raids in the interior. And maybe some of the kids are away at summer camp, but their parents are going to be taken away.
Randi Rhodes Show is live on RandiRhodes.com and the free Progressive Voices app for Android and iOS. Visit the App Store or ProgressiveVoices.com now.
To your knowledge, are you aware of family members who've been separated from their children and deported back to a country without their children?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, and that's what's about to happen this weekend, okay? You're going to have families separated this weekend. ICE is preparing to do massive raids this weekend, beginning pre-dawn on Sunday, okay? And some of the people who will be deported or arrested are going to leave behind their children who might be at daycare, as mom or dad has to leave them in daycare to go to work, or maybe their kids are at summer camp, and when they come home from summer camp, mom and dad, or mom or dad, or some will not be there, will be gone. This is a disaster waiting to happen, and it will happen, according to ICE, pre-dawn on Sunday. And they intend to break up about 2,000 families. Now, I will say that McElanian, or whatever his name is, over at DHS, Department of Homeland Security, he's warned that this indiscriminate operation to arrest migrants in their homes and at their work sites risks separating children from their parents in cases where the children are at daycare, the children are at a friend's house, the children are at summer camp, the children are at day camp, and they don't care. This administration needs to appeal to this crazy rabid base of theirs. ICE is going to use hotel rooms as staging areas this weekend. And they will detain parents and children in hotel rooms until all the members of a family are together and ready for deportation. They also admit that they might be arresting people that they cannot deport, known as collateral arrests. People who are not deportable, people who have current asylum claims. There is nothing illegal about claiming asylum. Nothing. Now, here's the thing. ICE does not have a lot of intelligence on the locations of families that have court-ordered deportations. All they have is the last known address, and that's why they will go to that last known address and make collateral arrests by finding other people who are in the country who may have active asylum claims but aren't here with any other documentation except an asylum claim. So I just want to let people know that if an ICE agent approaches you on the street, or an ICE agent approaches you on the public sidewalk or someplace, don't say your name. Don't say anything. Just ask, am I free to go? Don't say anything except, am I free to go? If they say yes, walk away. If they say no, you're not free to go, stay silent. You can repeat over and over again, I want to use my right to stay silent. I want to use my right not to answer questions. You can also say, I want to speak to a lawyer. If ICE reaches into your pockets or any of your personal space belongings, just say, I do not consent to a search. Don't flee. Don't lie. Just don't answer questions about where you were born or your immigration status, because anything that you say to that officer will be used against you. Don't hand over any foreign documents like a passport or a consular ID or an expired visa. Don't give them anything. Just ask, am I free to go? If they say yes, walk slowly away. If they say no, tell them you want to speak to an attorney. If they come to your house ask to see a warrant signed by a judge. If you don't want to open the door, you can ask them to slip the warrant signed by a judge under the door. Even if you open the door, that is not giving them consent to enter your home. If someone comes to your door, find out where they are from. Are they from DHS? Are they from ICE? A lot of them pretend to be police, and they'll say that they want to talk to you about some ongoing investigation or whatever. Tell them if they want you to open the door to slip the warrant signed by a judge under the door. But if you should make the mistake and open the door, that is not permission to enter your house. Just try to stay calm, be very polite, and just say, I do not want to talk to you right now. If they slip the warrant under the door and they're looking for somebody else, ask them to leave their card, their contact information. You don't have to tell them where to find this person. And don't lie. You don't have to tell them anything. Now, if they want to come inside your home to make an arrest, you tell them that if they present a warrant signed by a judge, tell them that there are children in the house or vulnerable residents in the house if there are. Do not lie. If they don't have a warrant signed by a judge, ask them to step outside. If they come in without your permission, tell them you don't consent to them being in your home. You can say, please leave. If they start to search your house, tell them you do not consent to a search. Tell them if you have a medical issue or if you have a concern about child care. And finally, if they do have a warrant signed by a judge, you have the right to speak to a lawyer. And you can say that over and over and over again. You don't have to share any information. You don't have to say where you're from. You don't have to say where you're born. You don't have to say what your immigration status is. You don't have to say anything. You just say, I want to speak to a lawyer. And for God's sake, do not sign anything. Just say, I want to speak to a lawyer. Don't sign anything.
This is the Randi Rhodes Show. To speak with Randi, dial 561-270-3844. That's 561-270-3844.
All righty. John in Ohio.
Yes, so you're giving advice of these people shouldn't say anything when they come across our border.
No. This is about deportations in the interior this weekend.
Right, and you know what? What I'm going to say to you is that actually they don't have any rights under our laws because they're not U.S. citizens.
Oh, no.
Okay,
wait.
So all of us,
hey.
all of us should pay for lawyers, right?
Hey. That's not true. If you're here on U.S. soil, the Constitution applies to you.
Yes, but they came across illegally, so we don't have.
So we
should not have to pay for their lawyers.
Just wait. Let's have a conversation based on some truth here, okay? The Constitution applies to anybody who's present on U.S. soil. Anybody. I mean, if you're here from Saudi Arabia and somebody murders you,
I'm not going to pay for their lawyers.
No, you don't pay for their lawyers.
Yes, we do.
No, we don't.
Yes, we do.
No,
when those
we don't.
When they lawyer up on those illegals, we have to pay out of our pockets to pay for that.
Tax dollars do not pay attorneys.
Yes, they do.
No, they don't.
What, they're doing it for free?
No, the immigrant is paying for it.
Right. The immigrants don't pay for lawyers.
Yes, they do.
Okay. First of all, they're not immigrants. They're illegal aliens that come across illegally.
They're not illegal. The people can't be illegal, okay? Listen to me.
Somebody that immigrates into this country
Just
is
learn a little.
immigrant.
We can have a conversation about what should happen, but you have to know the law. The law says...
I do know the law.
You
don't. And I do know that you're not a lawyer.
I am a lawyer. I have a law degree. Wait. I have a law degree, John.
These people do not have the right to come across our border, first
Yes,
of all.
they
First
do.
and foremost, they do not have a right to just come across the border.
Yes, they do. And if they make a
No,
claim...
they do not,
yes,
lady.
they do, sir.
It's just like you guys wanting to take our guns from us. You'll never be able to do it.
Okay, now we're into the Second Amendment.
Lady, you're a
of
fucking
the
moron. You know what?
Oh, well, dump him. He just called me an effing moron, so we had to dump him. I'm not a moron. The Constitution applies to everybody that is in the United States while they're in the United States. Therefore, each and every person who violates our law is due process. And that includes the Fifth Amendment, the right not to incriminate yourself. Lawyers are not paid for by tax dollars. You do have volunteer attorneys who do it pro bono. They come from groups like RAICES, the ACLU, and those are organizations that are supported by donations. Okay, tax dollars do not pay for migrants. Second, if you cross our border, that is not a crime, a federal crime. It's a civil crime, meaning a fine is attached. And after due process, if you are adjudicated as being somebody who broke the civil law of our country, you can then be deported. But you have to go through the due process. Third, John, if you cross the border and make a claim for asylum, whether you cross at a legal port of entry or you cross anywhere, and you are present on U.S. soil, you have broken no law. And you haven't violated any civil authority. Anybody who comes to the United States can and is entitled under our law to make a claim for asylum. And they have broken no law. They have not even jaywalking. Nothing. So you better know your laws before you call me an effing moron. And then we could have a conversation. But if you want to live in this little fantastical world where you think that the Constitution doesn't apply to anybody here, and that if a foreigner is murdered on our soil, that they're not entitled to have their murder investigated and their murderer prosecuted, you're crazy. We're better than that. In spite of you. Dan in Massachusetts.
Yeah. Hey, how are you?
I'm good.
All right. Well, first of all, I don't believe it when they say that they've got all the hotel rooms lined up. I don't think so. I think that there's going to be too many people for that. As far as I'm concerned, a lot of these people are just going to go into camps. We're talking about, this is just an analogous to the roundup of the Jews and the communists and the Poles and all that. Following the pattern of an authoritarian government. You know, AOC was right. Go ahead.
Yeah, I think she was right, and I'm a Jew, and I get to say, and of course, and of course, what she didn't call them death camps, and that's what Dachau was, and that's what Bergen-Belsen was. That's what those camps were. They were death camps, but she did not call them that. George Takei wrote a very brilliant piece. He said the title of his piece is "I Never Thought I'd Have to Say This," but he was talking about Japanese internment camps and how American citizens of Japanese descent were interned during World War II. Because just looking at them, guys like this one in Ohio here, could tell that they were up to no good. And of course, we had to make reparations to those people. And we will end up making reparations here as well. Because if somebody is here making a claim of asylum, they've broken no law. None.
Yeah. Yeah, but they're just stigmatizing them and rounding them up. That's all. And again,
well, I just want people to understand what the impact to our economy really is if we tried to deport undocumented people in this country. I just want you to know that a new study shows, it's bipartisan, and it shows that immigrant-owned businesses employ 8 million Americans. Immigrant-owned businesses employ 8 million Americans. They add $1 trillion to our economy. Of those immigrants, almost 1 million of them, 750,000 of those entrepreneurs are undocumented. and yet they employ Americans. Now, if we decided, if we go all in with this crazy authoritarian doofus, okay, this guy who understands absolutely nothing about our economy, understands, that all he knows is to transfer our wealth to the richest people in this country, okay? We would have, if we deported the people that are here working, that are undocumented, we would have food shortages in days. In days. You're talking farming, meat, dairy, all these places at the labor level, the people who actually perform the work, 80% of them are immigrants. They do really tough jobs, very demanding jobs in very harsh circumstances. These are people that are so hungry for work that they are willing to do what Mr. John in Ohio, the Buckeye, who called me a bucking moron, won't do. Historically, immigrants work in meatpacking plants. That has been true for over 100 years, and you know it if you're of Irish descent or Italian descent, okay? It would be horrendous if they weren't there to do this work. You would have no place to process animals. The plants would have to close. There would be severe animal welfare concerns all over this country. As far as dairy farming goes, Wisconsin, the people in Wisconsin who have the dairy farms, for the most part, they do all of our cheese and they do milk and all that stuff. 80% of the milk in Wisconsin is harvested by immigrants. Half the farms in Wisconsin would go out of business. Immigrant labor has helped Wisconsin's dairy farming thrive by filling the gap. Immigrants have, quote, become an important part of the fabric of the dairy industry, Mr. Mayer, who owns a dairy farm in Wisconsin, told me, and this is talking to Slate. He said they have the ambition and accountability to be with us at our side. They show up to work every single day. If Trump had his way and immigrant workers vanished from Wisconsin, the industry would encounter exceptional challenges. We would become even more depleted of having the folks that are the sort of hands who are going to show up to milk the cows, feed the calves, mix the feed. Wisconsin farmers have built deep bonds with the immigrant community that works at the local dairy industry. You think of some of these folks who have been here maybe as long as 20 years and are extremely skilled. They have proven that they love what they do. We have put a lot of training into these people. It would be devastating to lose these good quality people. Now, some of the Wisconsin farmers have decided to go back to Mexico, to the towns and the villages where their workers come from. And one of the men who owns a farm in Wisconsin, a man named Mr. Rosenau, said he went to Veracruz and it touched his heart because there was a little boy who was introduced to him and he was hiding behind his mother's skirt, and he was like, why is he so shy? And Mom said, because we named him John after Mr. Rosenau. He said that was just about more than I could handle.